Hey YouTube, I repasted my Dell laptop to hopefully reduce temperatures and performance. The laptop was running very slow and I later found out that there was something wrong with either the processor or motherboard. Thanks Dell. Before doing this, as a warning, this may void your warranty, and if you're not careful you could potentially damage your laptop. Also, repasting the processor in your laptop may or may not help improve the performance or lower the temperature of your laptop. Please be careful doing this. If you don't feel comfortable doing so, I would recommend leaving your laptop alone. With that said, make sure you turn off your laptop and turn it over to get the bottom cover off. In this case, there was 8 Phillips screws, and with a little bit of persuasion, I was able to get the cover off. Next, you want to get the heatsink and fan off. Most heatsinks have numbers by each screw hole for installing or removing the heatsink screws. I would recommend removing them in the same order to be on the safe side, and there's also usually a couple screws to get the fan off. Remove these screws, and before you pull up too hard, you'll need to unplug the fan connector. Be careful not to use too much pressure to remove it because you can damage it. Also, if you have a laptop like mine, for some reason, someone designed it so that even with the tabs on one side, the fan can be installed incorrectly. Make sure to take note which way the fan connector goes in, and a good tip is to take a picture of how the fan is connected and even how the heatsink and fan was installed for reference. You can also leave the fan plugged in to be on the safe side, but it could get in the way. Now you need to clean off the crappy thermal pad that comes with the laptop. Isopropyl alcohol is the go-to choice for this, and either use a Q-tip or a paper towel to get this off. It's not essential to get all of the thermal pad or paste off, but you want to get at least as much off of the surface of the CPU as well as the surface of the heatsink, basically the areas that the CPU and heatsink make contact. I used Arctic Silver MX4 since this is what I had on hand, and I would recommend getting something that is non-conductive so that you don't have to worry about accidentally getting it on places where the compound can conduct and damage your laptop. Apply a thin layer of thermal compound, wipe up any excess, and replace the heatsink and fan. If the fan connector sits underneath the heatsink and fan assembly, make sure to plug it in first before reinstalling the heatsink and fan. You can do what I did with a Q-tip and spread out the thermal compound or place the heatsink and fan straight on top. I like to push the heatsink in a side-to-side motion to make sure that there's full coverage between the two surfaces. Screw the heatsink back onto the motherboard, making sure to put them back in the order marked on the heatsink. Finally, plug in the fan connector if you haven't already, and screw the fan back into place. Put the bottom cover back on, screw it back down, and pray and hope that everything went well. You can now check and see if repasting the thermal compound on your laptop helped by either checking performance with either benchmarks or any processor-intensive applications, and or checking the temperatures of the processor compared to before. I like using HWinfo for this. I'll put a link to HWinfo in the description below. Hopefully after this, your laptop will run more efficient and faster at the same time. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.